President Valdis Zatlers, thank you very much indeed for your time and for this opportunity. This meeting, this conversation of ours is taking place at a very interesting juncture on the sidelines of the 13th edition of Nizami Ganjavi, the Baku Global Forum organized by Nizami Ganjavi International Center, against a backdrop of important developments taking place in and around the Islamic Republic of Iran. What is the key sensibility pervading this year's congregation?
You see, it's very important to keep calm mind because when bad things happen and they are challenging the humanity and practically each person, it's very important to keep calm, to have some analysis and without too much emotional impact. And that's what I see in the first day of the forum. People are talking about the processes. They are not just talking about how bad is the situation next door to Azerbaijan. It's very important, but I'm not surprised. People who gather here in Baku, they are very experienced and they have a lot of things which were successful in their lives and a lot of things they were not successful in their lives. So they are very adequate. And I think this is the most important thing. Because those who are in emotions, and let's say the Americans and the Iranians and the Gulf states are now in emotional stress. So somebody outside must keep calm and try to get at least, Gulf states at first to calm down, Because an emotional background, you make new mistakes. Because the first mistake, the war shouldn't happen, but it has happened. So let's be calm and not make the next mistake.
It's quite often said, Mr. President, that even there are reasons to panic. Panicking is never a good idea, even if there are reasons to panic. What do you think should be the reaction of Azerbaijan and Azerbaijan's allies and partners to the latest drone attack on Azerbaijan's Nakhchivan airport?
You see, it's not the first case. Even we had in Latvia a drone flying in, and we didn't know what to do with that. And Poland had a drone attack. It was a drone attack, because if you have one drone, it's a mistake. But if you have 20 drones, it's attack. So, and again, the first reaction, we are calm. We understand what's going on, and that was just the Azerbaijani reaction. We tell what we think about that, and we will not tolerate if it happens again. So I would say that this reaction was very adequate. And it's very important to give the message immediately. Not just after a few days hesitating, because it creates new, let's say, perceptions of what's going on and what is the reaction of a different state.
Yet the reaction coming from President Aliyev during the meeting of the National Security Council on the 5th of March, literally a couple of hours after the drone attack, was very tough, was very robust. He accused Iran of organizing terror attack against Azerbaijan. He used a very strong language saying that this stain will not be erased from their ugly and unsightly record, the language of particular strengths. And also he said that Azerbaijan is not going to be part of the offensive campaign against Iran, but will act along the lines of the principle of self-defense. But as you said, the second attack may be of different nature. I suppose in line with international law, this was illegal use of force against the sovereign territory of Azerbaijan. It could be an armed attack later if there are more drones encroaching. It could be aggression according to international law.
You see, the reaction was adequate, perfect, I would say. Very quick, very tough, strong, with a very strong and very clear message. Never again. Never do it again. We are going to react. The first time we'll just warn you, next time we will react. But we have to take also an account, more or less, Iran is a little bit in confusion. We cannot expect perfect performance of leadership and all the institutions, including military institutions. In a time you have air attacks, missile attacks, so something might went wrong, but we don't know. And when we don't know, we just have to make a strong statement, but not to react in the same emotional way.
Just one more question about this particular attack, because it's so important from the perspective of Azerbaijan's security and wider regional security. Azerbaijan and Turkey are treaty allies. and they have particular provision in that international treaty that they initially signed in 2021, which was ratified later in 2022, which is very similar to NATO Article 5 style mutual protection. And Turkey is a member of NATO. Some people have suggested that if attack on Azerbaijan is attack on Turkey, and attack on Turkey is attack on NATO, any attack on Azerbaijan could create a chain of events leading to NATO intervention. How realistic is such a scenario, you think?
I don't think this is realistic, because there were also incidents on Turkish side. And the reaction was very clear, you know. The Article 5 is not like blind, let's say, reaction. We take some consultations, because people all know the Article 5, but people don't know the Article 4, which is even much more important, you know. We start consultations just in case, you know, we are ready to react if it's necessary. But we have to understand that any action which is not calling, you know, as you said, domino effect in NATO would not be the right thing to do. So I would say even the reaction of after 9/11 was too overkilled. So we have to understand that it's a territorial defense. That means NATO has a territory, and the allies have agreed that they will protect and defend this territory altogether. But if something is happening outside this territory, we should be very careful about that. This is not the same. It's like Qatar was applying for membership, and the answer was very clear. We don't have the land border with Qatar, so no sense. Yeah? So very often we don't see the benefits of NATO, let's say, and advantages of NATO, and at the same time creating a lot of what I call fairy tales about NATO. I was born in the Soviet Union. I have listened to these fairy tales a lot, you know, and they are still realistic in today's Russia. NATO is a threat. It's a collective defense organization. It's not offensive. Despite the United States have already, you know, declared that they will be offensive. That's United States. United States is not NATO. You have to also distinguish, you know, the many military actions of the United States. It has nothing to do with NATO. Absolutely. Because it's nothing to do with the territorial defense.
Including the latest joint attack on Iran, as I understand, of course. It's nothing to do with NATO.
It's nothing to do with NATO.
It's Israeli attack supported by the United States. Regarding that particular moment, ongoing unfolding conflict between Iran on one side and the United States and Israel on the other, there are massive questions from the point of view of international law regarding the legality of the actions. But my question is the following. Do you think already everybody talks about the collapse of the international order? Do you think this conflict, which is currently happening, will further deepen that crisis?
You see, if you ask somebody and everybody to define what he means by the international order, the answers will be very different. So I would better say that it's end of yesterday's reality. We have today's reality, or let's say reality we had months ago, 2 months ago. And what really was a big surprise to me, you know, that this decision to attack, you know, Iran was not based on critical analysis. You see, you know, let's say if you count the number of fighting jets and cruise missiles and whatever, you know, Air Force ships, and it's clear America is a big power. But in a real war, what was proved in a Russian-Ukrainian war, it doesn't make the success. It's asymmetric. And you see, you know, a very interesting moment, you know, when Russia was in need for some new weapons, Iran sold Shaheds to Russia, and Shaheds now is number one, you know, offensive weapon. And now Russia sent them back already with some, you know, tactical logistics and so. So let's say nuclear warheads doesn't play the main role. What were the mistakes? And I would say people don't see them, you know. You have to not only count the weapons and say the victory is on our side. You have to take into account the people minds, the people, you know, the structure of a definite society, the power structure of a definite country. And let's say decapitation of Iranian leadership was a big mistake. Let's say in a theory, you decapitate the leadership, you create a chaos in the country. It didn't happen. And there is a big difference if you just kill some general, people will not react. It's a soldier, it's his duty, but if you kill, you know, religious leader, it has very, very severe consequences. And before learning, you know, about the historical sentiments, because historical sentiments of each nation plays a definite role how they react on today's events. And every nation has a historical sentiment. I just read the press conference material by Chinese Minister of Foreign Affairs. And I was really happy with a very balanced evaluation of what's going on in Iran. But I was surprised how aggressive the language was towards Japan. And then see, there's a historical sentiment behind. And let's say the main goal for China and Japan is to improve relationship. It's the same Europe and Russia. The main goal is to improve relationship. But to do it, you need two hands to clap.
Mr. President, regarding resilience and historic moments that we need to bear in mind while dealing a specific country, Islamic Republic of Iran so far has proven to be incredibly resilient for all the decapitation operations carried out by Israelis and United States. They elected a new supreme leader. As far as I understand, for the time being, has not yet been targeted after being elected or appointed by that organization, the entity known as the Assembly of Experts. And we know from history that Iranians, they tend to resent external intervention. We remember, when we say we remember, we know from history, 1953, when there was an attempt, a successful attempt to overthrow the government of Prime Minister Mossadegh by Britain and United States. That achieved a success, but then of course created a sense of dissatisfaction and also historic resentment towards Western world. What do you make of the resilience there about Iran?
It's a very tough question. Not only a good question, but very tough question, because you don't know what's in the people's minds. And that's the most important, how they will react, what they are going to support, against what they are ready to fight. But you see the historical sentiment in Iran has been grown for many, many centuries. Nothing to say, maybe a couple thousand years. And we have to take it into account. Let's say the identity of Iranians, you know, has very strong roots. And if compared, you know, to American let's say identity, it's about 300 years old. So, and you cannot compare it. You need, this is very deeply in the people's mind. And I had a possibility to have a conversation with, about nearly 20 years ago, with, I think he's Director General of International Atomic Agency, El Baradei. He was Egyptian. And the question about the nuclear arms was still there. So inspectors going, you know, not allowed to visit the facilities. They are allowed, you know. It was still there. And I asked him, what is your proposal as an expert being 20 years in charge of atomic energy and being, you know, an Arab? He said, it's not a question about a military might. It's a question of self-confidence. Let's say a country like Iran, with such a deeply rooted history, needs some self-confidence. If Pakistan has nuclear bomb, you know, and India has, they want to have it. Not for attacks, but just for self-confidence, to prove that they are, you know, leaders in the region. Of course, you know, if you look today, they They are not, just puffy teddy bears, all Hezbollah and Houthis and Hamas, is a bad thing they did. But again, you see, if this war is a mistake, the Iraqi war was also a mistake. It created consequences. Saddam Hussein regime was like a barrier between Iran and let's say Syria and Lebanon and so. And you've got ISIS, and you've got Hezbollah, more stronger, and Hamas much stronger. Let's say every intervention in any place without really clear purpose is a disaster.
Well, here in Azerbaijan, neighboring with Iran, of course, there are different accounts of Iran, because Azerbaijanis themselves historically played an important role in the consolidation of Iranian statehood, early 16th century and so forth. There is a deep connection between these two countries. Rivalry, quite often described as a perennial tug of war, sort of a battle which will never end. But back to the current situation regarding Iran. Current Supreme Leader Mojtaba Ali Khamenei, son of the previous Supreme Leader, is regarded to be radical, hardliner, widely supported by IRGC. He also said that, the statement attributed to him says that under the current circumstances, in view of joint Israeli-US attacks, Iran will need to form certain nuclear capabilities as a deterrence. What do you make of Iran, post-attack Iran, post-war Iran? If this system there, Islamic Republic of Iran, is allowed to survive, what will become of it eventually, you think?
It's again a very tough question, because we cannot predict unpredictable things. But basically, one thing is clear. This regime under new leadership would be much, much more radical in any case. Because the definite person who now is a leader has lost his family. It's very personal. You think the fighter jets and the missiles will make the deal. No. Personal attitude. The leadership personality makes a lot of influence of what decisions will be made in the future. The thing we underestimate, last year's attack, a few days attack, give a clear signal to Iran, we must prepare for a bigger attack. So, and if you just go in and say, well, we want this in a few days, don't expect that the next time it will be the same, especially if you want more regime change. I don't think that it was a good idea. Okay, we have, let's say, experienced a lot of regime change operations, not only by Americans, but many other states too, including Russia. So it's not a good idea. It works only if this country and these people are pretty weak. Then you can send, aircraft carrier, and it's enough, and threaten them, and they say, okay, we obey. And you see the difference between, Venezuela and Iran. Iran was prepared, and let's say the people who supported the information to the president of the United States got something wrong. They got really something wrong. And now we're all in a trouble. We don't know how to tackle this. Of course, the question is, who is going to take the lead to create some peaceful steps? I really like the expression of Ilham Aliyev this morning when he said, when we get rid of the mediators, which were failing for 20 years, we created that peace in a much shorter period of time. And if you have some buffer zones, spheres of influence, they will never work, because it's a playground or battleground for fighting for dominance. So how to start direct talks, let's say, between Russia and Ukraine and nowadays, Israel and Iran, sometimes it's impossible. It's impossible, but let's look what we have in the history. We have, Germany and France. Nobody expects that there will be tensions in future. And we have the example of Armenia and Azerbaijan. Nobody believed that. Said, no. You see, if you have, a courage, of leadership to go in and to talk, to your adversary, it makes much more sense. Because people on both sides, they look, if the leaders are becoming closer and they shake hands, that means a signal, the war is over. Yeah? But to get this situation is not an easy task. And who can push, I don't know, maybe the Gulf states, I don't know. Today they are very angry, they are very, emotionally, stressed because, they were like European Union, they were living in a peace and prosperity. They didn't need war.
A lot has changed since our last conversation, which was 8 months ago. Azerbaijan and Armenia signed a joint declaration in Washington back in August 2025. Initial peace treaty, not signed it yet, but initial. Agreed on Trump route for international peace and prosperity. Literally early this week, President of the European Council, Mr. Antonio Costa, was here in Azerbaijan, and I was examining the visits made by highest-ranking EU officials to Azerbaijan. I just realized that the one before this was back in summer 2022 by Ursula von der Leyen, EU Commission President. This is the first ever trip visit to Azerbaijan by sitting President of the European Council, Antonio Costa. How important is this visit, do you think?
Very. It's a signal. You see, every visit has a signal to tell the people, green light. I have experience of myself. In 2010, in 100 years, I was the first Latvian president to visit Moscow on an official visit, and you see after that nothing happened again. We are in bad relations again. But not because of small country, but because of big country, because it's absolutely nonsense, that the Ukraine may threaten Russia, or Latvia can threaten Russia, or Iran can threaten America. It's absolutely stupid, Big guys do the job, they change their minds, and therefore we have an up and downs in the relationship. Unfortunately, we have, even European Union, Azerbaijan. It's a gain of a definite perception what is our goal and what is our benefits we get by this visit. The first is a signal, and the second is economical benefits. And Chinese always say win-win, but you have to be smart enough to win-win situation, because to eliminate the possible dominance, which is not acceptable. You have to work hard. You have to be nice people. You have to use a nice language. Because if you look at the language of the leaders of today's world, they are threatening the others all the time. Because if Vladimir Putin says, we can be in Riga in 2 days, okay, we take it seriously. The same thing is everywhere, and if you look what is happening the last week, the language of Trump is much similar now to the language of Putin.
Well, he said that we can arrange a friendly takeover in Cuba. He said that we can use Spanish bases if we like to use. We're not going to ask their permission. And all of these moments together give rise to the impression that, yes, Donald Trump is an incredibly consequential person, but it's a profound change in diplomatic rhetoric. Is it just a rhetoric, you think, or is it something fundamental about the US power, image and projection?
Yes, I better use the word language, because rhetoric, sometimes we think, that's talking about nothing, saying nothing, but we must not take it seriously. No, the language. And if you have offensive, real language, threatening language, it will not help, because the opposite side will take it seriously. So the way out is where are the leaders who can talk in a different way? In a different way, because let's say Israel has not right to exist, Ukraine has not right to exist, the Hamas has to be eliminated. This is language which is absolutely abnormal. Because we all know that it's impossible to destroy Israel state. It's impossible to destroy Iranian state. It's impossible even to destroy Hamas. And you have this illusion, then you, let's say, destroy the infrastructures and kill the people, that it will work. You need few people left. And this will come back again.
What do you understand by destroying Hamas? You understand this?
That was, you see, if you talk, we are from, our ideology is from river to sea. Opposite sides, our ideology is from river to river, It's absolutely nonsense, because this is not realistic approach. So you spend your energy and you spend a lot of money, by the way, on building up your military capabilities. And you see in this era, asymmetry is present. And you have to learn that, in an asymmetric battlefield, with asymmetric approaches and tactics, very often the smallest is the winner, even if it just keeps himself alive.
It looks like, Mr. President, great time to be alive to witness all of these consequential developments. It feels in a very Dickensian way, like best of times because massive opportunities, also in a sense worst of times because the risk of mistake is massive and it's there. I'm so grateful to you, Mr. President. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you. It was my privilege.
Privilege was mine, sir.